The world is watching as a shocking development unfolds in West Africa, just days after being expelled. French troops have made a sudden and unexpected return to Ivory Coast. This bold move has sent ripples across the region, reigniting debates about neo-colonial influence, military intervention, and the sovereignty of African nations. With tensions already high after the ousting of French forces from neighboring Burkina Faso under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, many are left wondering, what does this mean for the future of West Africa? Is this a calculated military strategy, a response to regional instability, or something even deeper? Let's dive into the unfolding drama and uncover the hidden forces at play behind this shocking comeback. The dark issue. France's presence in West Africa has long been a contentious issue, particularly as countries in the Sahel region continue their struggle for genuine independence, while France presents itself as reducing its influence. Recent developments in Côte d'Ivoire suggest otherwise. The so-called withdrawal of French troops is not an end to its presence, but a rebranding of its military and economic control. This analysis explores the mechanisms through which France maintains its grip on Côte d'Ivoire and how this aligns with broader trends in West Africa. The symbolic withdrawal, a facade of change. French military forces have officially left Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger following widespread opposition from local populations and governments. However, in Côte d'Ivoire, the strategy differs. Instead of a dramatic withdrawal, France has opted for a subtle realignment, presenting its presence as cooperation rather than occupation. This change in narrative masks the continued dependency of Côte d'Ivoire on French military and economic structures. Repositioning rather than leaving. While some troops are being withdrawn, France is simultaneously reinforcing its military bases under different operational names. The French embassy and military officials have framed this as a partnership, which allows for continued access to strategic locations while minimizing backlash from the public. Lessons from the Sahel states. The expulsion of French troops from Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso was a significant blow to France's influence in the region. These nations have sought alternative alliances, particularly with Russia, in a bid to assert sovereignty. Côte d'Ivoire, on the other hand, remains entangled in French-led security arrangements, highlighting a divide in how former colonies are handling neo-colonial entrenchment. The economic shackles. France's continued control over Côte d'Ivoire, beyond military influence. France's grip over Côte d'Ivoire is deeply rooted in its economic dominance. The financial dependence on French institutions ensures that any real break from neo-colonial rule remains difficult. The CFA franc and financial dependence. Côte d'Ivoire, like several other West African nations, continues to use the CFA franc, a currency controlled by the French treasury. This monetary system ensures that the Ivorian economy remains tied to French interests, restricting economic autonomy, while there have been discussions about replacing the CFA franc. Concrete steps towards this have been slow and met with resistance from France, French companies and strategic sectors, from energy to agriculture. French corporations maintain a strong presence in Côte d'Ivoire. Companies such as Total Energies and Bolloré dominate key industries, ensuring that profits flow back to France rather than being reinvested in local economies. The Ivorian government's reliance on these corporations further diminishes its ability to make sovereign economic decisions. Colonial tax and debt traps. Despite achieving formal independence, Côte d'Ivoire, like many former French colonies, still pays colonial debt, an economic mechanism that continues to extract wealth. This system forces the nation to prioritize French interests over the well-being of its citizens, reinforcing dependency. The political puppetry. France's influence over leadership. One of the most effective tools France uses to maintain control over its former colonies is political influence. By supporting leaders who align with French interests, France ensures that its neo-colonial agenda remains intact. Alassane Ouattara's pro-France stance. Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara has maintained close ties with France, positioning himself as a reliable ally in the region, unlike the leaders of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, who have actively opposed French interference. Ouattara has ensured that his administration remains within France's sphere of influence. Interference in elections and governance. France has a long history of interfering in Ivorian politics, often supporting candidates who align with its interests. This pattern ensures that anti-French sentiment is kept in check at the governmental level, even if the public increasingly demands change. The role of intelligence and covert operations. Beyond visible political support, France's intelligence agencies play a crucial role in maintaining influence by surveilling opposition leaders and controlling narratives through media outlets. France can suppress movements that challenge its dominance. The military proxy strategy, a shift in colonial tactics. France's new approach in Côte d'Ivoire signals a shift from direct military occupation to a proxy strategy, allowing it to maintain control while avoiding public resistance. France has increasingly shifted its military strategy in Côte d'Ivoire by focusing on training and equipping local forces rather than deploying its own troops. This approach aligns with Britain's historical method of indirect rule, where local leaders were employed to enforce colonial control. By training Ivorian forces, France ensures that the country's military acts as a partner, maintaining French interests in the region. Bilateral intelligence and security agreements further cement France's influence over Côte d'Ivoire's security apparatus. These arrangements provide frameworks through which the Ivorian military and police operate, ensuring they align with French strategic goals rather than acting autonomously. Through these agreements, France retains significant control over security matters, enhancing its ability to protect its broader geopolitical and economic interests. Maintaining a military presence in Côte d'Ivoire offers France a strategic advantage in safeguarding its economic interests, particularly in critical industries like oil and cocoa. These sectors are vital to both Ivorian and French economies, and any instability in the region could disrupt the flow of resources vital to French corporations. By ensuring security and supporting Ivorian forces, France secures its continued influence and economic benefits in the region. The push for true independence. Lessons from Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. The recent actions of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger represent a significant shift in the political and economic dynamics of the Sahel region, signaling a break from French neocolonial influence. These countries are taking bold steps toward asserting their sovereignty and charting their own paths toward independence, defying the historical legacy of French control. These actions provide a potential roadmap for Côte d'Ivoire and other African nations still under the weight of foreign dominance. One of the first steps taken by the Sahel states is severing military and economic ties with France. This includes the expulsion of French troops from their territories, a move aimed at reclaiming control over national security without the interference of foreign military presence. In addition, nationalizing industries previously controlled by French corporations has allowed these nations to regain ownership of critical sectors such as mining, energy, and telecommunications. By taking control of these industries, countries like Mali and Niger are ensuring that the wealth generated from their natural resources benefits their own populations rather than foreign entities. Nationalizing key industries is not just about economic empowerment. It also serves as a means of strengthening political independence. The Sahel countries are increasingly relying on their own labor and resources, rather than being dependent on foreign expertise and investments. This shift ensures that domestic markets can thrive, fostering job creation, economic stability, and growth. By taking control of their own resources, these nations are no longer subject to the whims of foreign governments or corporations that have historically exploited their wealth. Reclaiming financial sovereignty is another critical step in the process of breaking free from neocolonial shackles. One of the most significant moves toward this goal has been the decision to challenge the dominance of the CFA franc, the currency tied to France. This currency system has long been seen as a tool for French influence in the region. as it is backed by the French treasury, by seeking alternatives to the CFA franc. Countries like Mali and Niger are asserting their right to control their own monetary policies, which is essential for long-term economic independence. Furthermore, the governments of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger have prioritized making independent policy decisions that reflect their national interests. This marks a stark contrast to previous regimes that often acted under the pressure of Western powers. By asserting control over domestic policies and taking a firm stance against foreign interference, these countries are putting their sovereignty above external approval. Finally, one of the boldest steps taken by these nations has been to reject colonial-era debt payments. Refusing to continue paying for the debt incurred during the colonial period is a significant act of financial autonomy. Despite the threat of economic sanctions from Western nations, these countries are demonstrating that their sovereignty is more important than maintaining the status quo. This refusal to uphold colonial financial agreements is a powerful statement of defiance, signifying that these nations are no longer willing to carry the burden of debt imposed by their former colonizers. Through these actions, the Sahel states are setting an example for Côte d'Ivoire and other African countries still under the influence of foreign powers. Their efforts to sever colonial ties, reclaim their resources, and make independent policy decisions show that it is possible for nations to break free from the shackles of neo-colonialism. While challenges remain, the path carved by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger offers hope for a future where African nations can fully control their destinies. The future of Côte d'Ivoire, will it follow the path of the Sahel states? The growing dissatisfaction among Ivorians suggests that change is inevitable, while the current administration remains aligned with France. Public pressure is mounting, potentially leading to a shift in policy in the coming years. Anti-French sentiment has been rising across Côte d'Ivoire, particularly among the youth, who view France's influence as a relic of colonial control. This growing resentment mirrors the sentiments that have led to the expulsion of French troops in other West African nations, such as Burkina Faso and Mali. Protests against French involvement in Ivorian affairs have become more frequent, with demonstrators demanding greater economic and political sovereignty. Many Ivorians believe that their country's wealth is not benefiting its citizens, but is instead being exploited by foreign interests. This dissatisfaction is fueling a broader movement calling for a redefinition of Côte d'Ivoire's foreign policy. A potential political shift could occur if a leader emerges who prioritizes true independence over loyalty to France. Such a transition would mark a dramatic departure from the status quo, possibly aligning Côte d'Ivoire more closely with its neighbors that have distanced themselves from France. The response from regional organizations, particularly ECOWAS and the African Union, will be crucial in determining whether Côte d'Ivoire follows this path or remains under French influence. As West Africa undergoes rapid geopolitical transformations, Côte d'Ivoire stands at a crossroads. The coming years will reveal whether the country embraces a more autonomous future or maintains its long-standing ties with France. The road to genuine sovereignty. France's approach in Côte d'Ivoire can be seen as a sophisticated form of neo-colonialism, emphasizing indirect influence rather than outright domination. This strategy has become increasingly relevant as anti-French feelings grow stronger across West Africa. The ongoing sentiment raises important questions about Côte d'Ivoire's future and whether it can truly liberate itself from the lingering effects of colonialism. Achieving genuine independence is no easy feat, yet the experiences of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger illustrate that it is indeed attainable. The critical issue now is whether Côte d'Ivoire will muster the resolve to assert its autonomy or continue to be caught in the intricate network of French influence that has shaped its political landscape for so long. The choices made in the coming years will be pivotal in determining the nation's trajectory toward true self-determination. As the situation in Ivory Coast continues to develop, one thing is clear: this is more than just a military maneuver. It's a high-stakes power struggle that could reshape the balance of power in West Africa. Will this resurgence of French military presence lead to further unrest? Or is it a sign of a broader geopolitical game unfolding before our eyes? And what does this mean for Ibrahim Traoré and other leaders pushing for a break from French influence? Only time will tell. Stay tuned as we continue to bring you the latest updates on this gripping story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis on global affairs.